Hi there, welcome to today's painting tutorial. Today we are going to paint a raven with acrylic paints, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a size 0 round brush, and don't forget to grab the sketch linked in the description below so that you can paint along. So let's take a little bit of this black paint, and I'm going to go into the center of the eye, as well as around the outside edge of the eye. And then I'm going to pick up some of this burnt sienna color. Let's put a little bit of that on either side. And then in the center, I'm going to take this yellow ochre and put that along the bottom for a highlight. I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. And now let's take a little bit of white paint. I actually need to add that onto the palette. I'm going to pick up some white and put a little highlight at the top of the eye. Okay, so now let's move on to the beak. I'm going to take some black paint and go along this middle line here, as well as along the bottom and a little bit on the top. While it's still wet, I'm going to pick up some of this gray and let's start blending that gray in. And I'm getting a little bit lighter over here. I'm going to pick up that purple, put a little bit of purple in. And then up above, let's take some of the gray, feather that in. And there's a nice highlight coming to play here. So for that, I'm going to use this grayish blue. Let's put that in. Pick up a little more. Okay, and then it gets darker, so take the black in this area. Just have almost a feather effect here. You can add the detail later, so I'll just put in the black as a base here. Okay, so now let's work up. I'm going to switch brushes. This is a bristle brush, a 0 round bristle brush. And let's take some black paint and go around the outside edge area here. And I'm using this bristle brush because it has coarse hairs, and that'll allow you to get some really nice texture that's going to imitate the look of the feathers. Okay, I'm going around this area here. You can sort of see it in the sketch. Then we can go back along this edge. So now we want to start getting lighter. To do that, let's start with some gray and feather some of the gray in. We don't want it to be too dark. So I'm feathering that gray around the black, but it is mixing on the brush. Black is just such an intense color. So let's get lighter with some purple. It's okay if that purple mixes with some of the gray. That'll give us some nice shadowy tones. Switch back to the gray. And then right here, let's pick up some of this bluish gray. See if we can feather that in to create a little bit of a lighter value and some highlighting. Okay, for the rest of the body, let's do this chin area here. So we could take the black, put a little black underneath, and feather it down. So I'll take some black, add some purple tones in there. Trying to get this nice texture. And again, that brush is really helping me to get that texture. Come over this way. Okay, and while it's still wet, let's pick up some of this grayish blue and start putting some little highlights in there. Some nice feather shapes. Okay, I'm just wisping them in. And then let's get darker. So I'll take the black. And at this point, I might switch brushes. Let's take a flat brush. I'm going to take a large flat brush. This is a size 11, I believe. Doesn't have to be exact. But I'm going to take the black and start bringing it down. So a larger brush is just going to help me get a little more coverage, fill the space quickly. And we can be loose towards the bottom here. You can get creative with that section. And just do some loose painterly brush strokes. This area is going to be the wing. So I'm going to add some purple into this wing area. And then continue to add some purple into the black. It's going to give it some nice color, prevent it from being too dark. I'm also trying to cover the whites of the paper. Okay, so I think that looks good. I'm going to switch back to that bristle brush. And let's put, what if I mix some of the purple with that grayish blue? Let's see what kind of color that gives us. That's another nice sort of cool highlight. I'm going to take more of the blue, trying to put these little feathers here for the wing. It's going to stand out a little more. Okay, and then let's bring some of that. I'm going to mix more of that light purple with the blue. And start bringing some of that purple down. Trying to make it look as random as I possibly can. Let's bring some of the blue on this left shoulder. Okay, so now let's switch brushes. I'm going to switch to a zero liner brush. I want to put a ring around the eye. Let's see if we can mix up a beige color. So I'll take the burnt sienna, the yellow ochre, and the white. And you want to roll that brush. Let's really carefully see if we can do a ring underneath the eye and then above the eye. Really thin. You can pause the video and take your time with that one. Okay, I'm going to rinse the brush. We need to put a highlight in between the beak. You could do that with white or a gray. So let's mix a light gray. Take the white and the gray. Roll that brush to get all the paint on the bristles. And now let's put this line here along the beak. And then we can put a little bit of a line on top over here. Okay, and then that is going to need a little bit of a highlight. Take my 0 round and let's use some of this. We could use the gray for that. And I'm going to reinstate a highlight on the beak. Just doing some light brush strokes. Almost dry brushing this on. And then I'm going to switch. I have a filbert grainier. I think it's how you pronounce it. It's French, but it's the filbert that has the little hairs showing through. And let's use some of this gray. And if you don't have this brush, that's fine. You don't have to use it. It's just an extra little detail. I'm going to bring this across here. Just make some little lines. Okay, and then I'm also going to pick up some of this black with this brush and bring some of these hairs down here. And see how you have to have a really light touch with this. It's kind of tricky. Okay, but that gives it some nice little feathers and textures. And then I'm going to add more gray onto this brush. And we can also bring some of that texture down here. Again, I'm just trying to make smooth little hairs. You could do this with a 0 liner brush. If you wanted to make them individual, you could do that. Okay, I think I will. So we're kind of adding the highlights at this point. Let's take some of this light blue, mix it with the purple. I want to make some, kind of bring out these highlights above the eye. Let's actually use a little bit more of the gray, blue gray. Just a nice highlight there. Then above the head, I'm going to bring some of them out over underneath here. So this is where you get into details. So you can pause the video, get out your detail brush, and then just take your time here and put in as many little individual hairs as you'd like. Could put some under the chin, that would look nice. And then also try to cover up some of the whites of the paper if you can. And then I would take that 0 liner brush again and a highlight color, so that light blue, maybe mixed with some white. And then let's see if we can use this to pop some of these highlights a little more. And you'll notice with the acrylics that your highlights can dry and then almost disappear or look too dark. So to counteract that, you might just have to go over it a few times till you really get the look that you want. Okay, try not to make the feathers too uniform. You want them to be random and look fresh and natural. Different sizes as well. Okay, and I think we will call this painting complete. So that is how you can paint a raven with acrylic paints. I hope you give this a try. If you want to dive deeper into acrylic painting, check out my free guide in the description below. And if you are serious about learning to paint, I also have a full course that is linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.